Clare FM's In the Garden with Clonroad Garden Centre, Clonroad Business Park, in the heart of Ennis. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, our friendly staff are here to help your garden grow. Open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday.
We were like ships passing in the night. We missed each other last week, but here we are back together again. Myself with Judy Beck from the Clonroad Garden Centre for In the Garden. Judy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Alan. I'm having a good chuckle here about the Limerick in Clare, because as a Limerick woman.
As a Limerick woman, you're not too bothered, I would imagine.
No, a Limerick woman living in Clare, though, so I better not chuckle too much.
Yeah. You can understand the annoyance to some degree, I'm sure.
I can, and it's going on now for years, isn't it? Ever since I was a child, this has always been a thing about Limerick and Clare.
It really has. Will it end one of these days? I think the people in Clare living in places mistaken for Limerick hope so, but we won't hold our breath. Anyway, before we get you into any trouble, we'll turn to things that are green, not the Limerick flag, but gardening matters. For this week's In the Garden, as I mentioned, the number to send your gardening questions in for Judy, and many of them already coming in, is 086 1800 964. We're talking fruit this week, Judy, and one particular type of fruit. Why don't you let the listeners know what it is?
Well, we were going to talk about raspberries this week because it's one thing that really suits this climate and so easy to grow. And honestly, once you eat your own raspberries, they're absolutely delicious. And when you think about how many raspberries we import into the shops, and we've no idea what they're being sprayed with or how they're being grown, whereas when you grow your own and you know that you've grown them without any nasty chemicals and that you're eating it fresh off your own raspberry bush, is nothing like it.
Yeah, it always tastes better when you grow it yourself, as you know, as you've told us with the likes of carrots and with tomatoes in the past. Growing raspberries, how difficult or easy is it to do?
Well, it's so easy, and actually now is a really good time of year to plant them, as long as your ground isn't frozen, which it isn't at the moment. It's wet, all right, and raspberries don't really particularly like wet ground, so better if you can't sow them in a raised bed. And when you sow things in a raised bed, it means that you've much better drainage, and that suits raspberries. Now, what a lot of people don't know actually is there are two different types of raspberries, in that there's summer fruiting ones and autumn fruiting ones. So if you'd like to have an extended season and able to pick them throughout the summer right into the autumn, you're better off to put in some summer fruiting ones and some autumn fruiting ones. The peak time for picking your summer raspberries is July, and for the autumn ones it's late August into September. And the one thing that's nice, I love about the autumn raspberries, is you can actually get a yellow one called All Gold.
A yellow raspberry?
Yeah, you don't see them in the shops.
I don't think I've ever seen one in my life.
Yeah, and I find them extra sweet. I don't know if that's because they're later on in the season when you don't normally get raspberries, or whether it's just the different colour of them, but definitely worth trying. Now, there is there is something to keep in mind depending on whether you put in summer ones or autumn ones, and that is that they're pruned slightly differently. And the pruning actually is sometimes what puts people off growing raspberries, but it's very straightforward. With the summer ones, the summer fruits on last year's stems. So, for example, the stems that are growing now, you're going to get the fruit on next year. Whereas the stems that grew last year is going to be the ones that fruit this year. I don't know if I've confused people by saying that, but for pruning, you would just prune the stems that have fruited already. So, for example, when your raspberries grow this year, then you would take the stems out straight away afterwards. And the new ones that are growing, you'll get the fruit on next year. Now, with the autumn ones, it's totally different. You just cut all the stems to the ground. So that's a little bit easier, and another reason to grow the autumn ones. So autumn ones are just, everything is cut straight down, whereas the summer ones, you just cut out the ones that have fruited already.
Okay, so in terms of growing, do they grow quite differently, or is it quite similar with slight variations?
They're very similar the way they grow, and they grow quite high. They can grow, 6-7 feet high. So it's quite good to put in stakes. So you put in some strong stakes either end and run wires between them, and then tie the raspberries onto them. That's the best thing to do, if you can. They'll grow regardless, because some people almost consider raspberries a weed because they send up new shoots all the time from the ground. Now, you can look on that in two ways. One is that you're getting free raspberry plants by these new suckers coming up. but also that they do become a little bit invasive. And they can send up too many. So you kind of need to pull them out when they're young if you have too many suckers coming up. But if you tie them then into your lines between your stakes, and you know exactly where your raspberry plants are, and make it very easy for picking them as well.
Okay, so tell us more about how to handle growing the summer ones and how to handle growing the autumn ones.
So very similar as in they need this. You fertilise them all around about now with farmyard manure. Anytime in the spring, fertilise around the base of the plants to. That does two things. If you put down farmyard manure, it helps to keep the weeds suppressed, but it also fertilises them for getting extra good fruit in at harvesting time. Also, if you plant them, both of them would like to be in a sunny location. That means you will get sweeter fruit, though they'll take a bit of shade. So if you don't have the sunniest of gardens, you can put them in a little bit of shade. Also, putting them about a foot and a half apart and leaving about 6 feet in between, or 1.8 metres in between rows as well, to give them a bit of space to spread.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Anything else people need to know if they fancy tackling growing raspberries, be they the summer or autumn variety?
So, as I was saying, the best time to plant them is around about now. You don't have to buy lots of pots of them because they do increase quite quickly, and you will get, they'll probably triple every year. So if you put in one raspberry cane now, you'll have triple the amount next year. So you don't need to start off with loads. Also, you can grow them in containers. Now, it's not ideal. They're better off in the ground, but you can actually grow raspberries in containers. They have quite shallow roots, and of course, if you have very wet ground as well, containers might suit better. Or if you don't have a very big garden and you don't have a lot of space for planting, it helps to control, because, as I said, they do spread a lot. So putting them in a container keeps them contained.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Before we get to the listeners' questions, and it is 086 1800 964, if you have a question for Judy, any jobs for our keen gardeners to get stuck into for the coming week?
Sure. It's time now to think about planting or sowing your seeds for tomatoes and peppers, kale, peas, leeks, lots of different things you can start off with. Now, you wouldn't be sowing them outside, of course. You'd be putting them into seed trays inside a sunny windowsill, or if you have a tunnel or a glass house. But certainly wouldn't put them outside at the moment. Time also to buy your new potatoes like Sharps Express, Queens. They're all available now. So you would start chitting them, which means sprouting them on the windowsill again. So when traditionally you actually put them outside, sow them outside around St. Patrick's Day. So that gives you a few weeks to start them off on your windowsills. Pruning wise, hydrangeas such as Annabelle and Limelight, you can go ahead and prune those now, but not the old-fashioned hydrangea. Wait another month or so before pruning those. And tidying up, of course, lots of tidying up at this time of year. Your vegetable beds and flower beds, and in compost and manure, covering them with black plastic and getting them ready for the season ahead.
Okay, let's get to the listeners' questions. The first one is from a listener who's had their bathroom done up. They say, question for Judy, I just got my bathroom done up and I'm wondering, what is the best houseplant for a bathroom?
Oh, that's nice, and lucky for that listener to have a nice new bathroom. So there are some plants that really do suit bathrooms. In my own bathroom, I have a jade plant, also known as the money plant, which I'm always hoping that it's going to help me win the lotto. It's a really easy plant to mind. It's a succulent, needs very little watering, will take reasonably low light levels, and likes that, you get that misty kind of humid from the bathroom, from all the steam. And a lot of plants actually like that. The spider plant as well. Spider plant known to be good to clean the air. The Boston fern, a lovely leafy green plant that prefers a little bit higher light levels. So you have to kind of take into account how much light is coming into the bathroom as well. The peace lily, nice green leafy plant with lovely white flower. That will take fairly low light levels, likes the humidity of a bathroom, and very suitable as well. So hopefully those ones we have all of those plants actually in stock in the garden centre at the moment. So hopefully one of those would suit.
I'm sure one will. Someone wondering, will a succulent take in moisture from the bathroom?
A succulent, yeah. I mean, they need so little moisture anyway, the succulents. So you only need to water them. It depends on the time of year and how warm the room is. But they will take in a certain amount of the humidity through its succulent leaves, yes.
Okay, probably succulent doesn't need the amount of moisture that you would find in a bathroom after someone's had a shower, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's true.
It would take in some of it. Okay, let's move on to a question from Kay in Currafin. How are you, Kay? Good morning, great to hear from you.
Kay.
And she says, good morning, Alan and Judy. Thank you. Kay's question, Judy, is about her indoor plants, which she says are all thriving. She says she has a very healthy, fast-growing plant. Tiny white flowers appear on it around summertime. Kay goes on to say, a friend brought me a tiny piece, about 3 leaves from Lourdes a few years ago. I have no name for it. I know it's hard for you to tell me its name without seeing it. I'll be calling to you fairly soon, she says. I'll bring a sample to you. So I don't know how much of that you can address before seeing the actual evidence in front of your eyes, but...
Yeah, no, absolutely. If Kay brings that in, and by the sounds of her, she had great green fingers with houseplants, which can always be sometimes a challenge to grow. But just a tip to give the listeners is, if for anyone who has a smartphone, if they go to the Google app and Google Lens, they can actually take a photograph of the plant, any plant at all, and it'll do a search. Often helps when the plant is in flower to do that, but it'll identify from leaves as well. Now, you won't always get the right answer. It might give you some choices, but it's surprisingly accurate. And even if you're like on holidays somewhere exotic and you're like, oh, I wonder what that plant is, we don't see that at home, and you take out your Google Lens app and you can check the plant that way. So Kay might want to give that a go, or if she wants to come in, I can show her how to do that, or hopefully I can identify it if she brings me in a few leaves or flowers.
There you go, Kay. It sounds like you'll be making a trip to the Clonroad Garden Centre very, very soon. Next one is about the youth out there, and great to see the next generation of gardeners coming through, because our listener here says, my youngest son seems to be really into gardening. He's only 12 and I'm trying to see how he can help out or get involved without being in touch with any dangers.
Well, I suppose, you know, at 12 years old, just to be careful maybe with things like secateurs and really sharp tools like that. But absolutely, it's a great age to start. Probably encourage them to wear gloves, of course, for picking up any nasties in the garden and that kind of thing. But just... you know, a few simple rules, and absolutely no problem. You know, if you want to bring them in as well to the garden centre, we can show them through, and, you know, even if they just want to have a look around, be happy to show them around all the different types of plants and all the different things that they can grow. They'll be very welcome. We do have some customers now who've been coming into us since they were children and have kept up such a great hobby and have kept that enjoyment right through their teenage years into adulthood, and now they're coming back as adults, you know, to buy their own bits and pieces in the garden centre. So it's really great to see. So definitely something to be encouraged, to be away from the screens. Exactly,
yeah, out in the fresh air, and
sure.
Really, really nice hobby or a passion to have. The next question is about the difficulties are otherwise caused by the current conditions, and it does feel, and indeed I think it is the case, that it has rained every single day in 2026, and it feels like it is never going to end. And this question from our listener says, with the amount of rain we have gotten in 2026, it feels like my gardening jobs are on hold.
Yes.
It feels like a lot of things are on hold. Even when doing the shopping, you need a really strong umbrella. Is there anything I should be doing, especially during the constant rainfall, they wonder?
Well, I keep telling myself, at least we're having it at this time of year. You know, better
get
now.
it out of the way early.
Exactly.
That's good thinking, good positive thinking.
If the weather's too good at the wrong months, we're kind of like, oh, we're going to pay for this later.
So true, yeah.
So that's what I try to console myself with. And there's no point in rushing out into the garden in this weather. You'll do more harm than good. Just let the weather do what it has to do, and it will turn, and the good days will come. And so you could do some seed sowing on your windowsills. You could cover your raised beds with black plastic to get them ready. That'll keep, you know, it'll dry them out a little bit and warm them up for when the weather does turn. But as I was saying, there's no point in rushing out into the garden and doing jobs. We just have to wait for the fine weather.
Wait it out, and and Judy's practically promised us there that the fine weather is going to come.
That's
so
it.
We'll hold her to that. Maura says, "Good morning, Alan and Judy. I bought a blueberry bush last year. I hope I pronounced it right. Vacuum gold tube. Do I need another bush for cross pollination?" Maura wonders.
So you don't have to. Blueberries are self-pollinating, but you definitely get better pollination with 2. So if you have space, I would recommend 2. But if you only have 1, it will pollinate itself, but they do recommend, 2. So I would say if you can do it, if you have the space, go ahead and get 2.
Okay, Katrina is in Mount Shannon. Good morning to you, Mount Shannon. That's Mount Shannon in County Clare, not in Limerick. She says, I have never grown carrots before, and I'm wondering if it is too early to start them now. Well, I would say, Judy, before you answer that, I might direct Katrina to the podcast of our chat some weeks back about growing carrots, but maybe a few little reminders or tips on that.
Yeah, sure. And if it stops raining, you can go ahead and sow carrots, Katrina, but I would recommend like a couple of, there's some varieties. There's one called Early Nant, Nantes, and that is one, you can start with that one earlier in the season than other carrots. But they would benefit from having what we call a cloche put over them. So that's a plastic cover. So rather than leaving them to their elements till the weather warms up, when it stops raining and things dry out a bit, you can go ahead and sow that variety of carrot earlier in the year. But I would recommend using a cloche with them.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
And as I say, check out the chat had with Judy about growing carrots. There's a lot more info in there. You can check that out on our website. Final one for this morning from a listener says, regarding a good housewarming gift, any ideas for something on the nicer side of things, of plants and that kind of thing?
Yeah, a lot of people buy houseplants actually for housewarming gifts because if you're not sure, of what kind of, how much of a gardener maybe the person is, you can always be sure. A houseplant always goes down really well because you can put it in any room. It brings a little bit of greenery into the home. It cleans the air. There's just so many good things about houseplants that I love. A gift voucher is always a nice present as well, because then when the summer does come, they can put it towards hanging baskets for their new home or window boxes for their new home. So a really nice present as well, a gift voucher. I know maybe some people think that's a bit boring, but I've never met anyone who got a gift voucher who didn't appreciate it. Lots of different ideas. There are, of course, if you wanted maybe to put, and we have lovely pots made up with lots of different spring flowers in them for the front doorstep. Again, a really nice gift for someone in a new house, just to have something seasonal to put outside the front door, just to show that they're the new owners of their, and best to look to them in their new home.
Very true. And look, any ideas, you can go to Clonroad Garden Centre, be it the gift vouchers or the plants themselves, and I'm sure Judy will help you out once she's finished helping Kay from Currafin and all the other people who go to her seeking advice. Judy, thank you very much as ever.
Thanks,
great
Alan.
advice this morning.